Hello, and welcome back to another episode with your favorite, well regarded artist. I've been thinking a lot about belief and how it's changed in America, specifically the belief in science versus the belief in God and the payoffs for each. So, when we say believe the science, does that mean have a fervent belief that science is infallible and is going to save you, is going to prolong your life so that you may live forever? Do you really believe that we, as scientists, are going to become the masters of the universe and master physics so that we can travel to distant galaxies and extend our lifespan into the thousands of years so that we can all become vampires wearing cloaks and grow fangs? Yes, I think so. Or does believe the science just mean, hey, stop being a questioning piece of, you know, stop questioning the science. It's inconvenient that people want answers, that people don't just want to blindly believe what you say. And again, what is the payoff for buying into that? What, just no social consequences? Um, no consequences whatsoever? Because also, a belief in God means that you believe that there are consequences for your actions. You're going to burn in hell, or you get to go to heaven, which is just amazing. And so you live your life on earth accordingly and try to treat people fairly and not pollute the environment, not dump billions of barrels of oil into the swampland for profit. Well, if you only believe in science and you believe that there's no long-term repercussions for you, then it seems like a lot of people just do whatever they want, and corporations pollute the environment and only respond to financial pain when regulators step in and say, hey, you've been a bad boy, but you got away with it for a long time and made a lot of money, so you probably don't even care about the financial consequences because you made way more money than what we are going to charge you. So on one side, if you believe in God, you you choose to do things that are good for the future generations to preserve your own soul. And it seems like if you only believe in science, and I mean, if you believe in science, then you should understand that pollution is bad and harming others is bad. Scientifically, it's bad. But it doesn't seem to have the same effect on people's behavior as when we as a nation believed in God. And we had these small local institutions that collected money, people donated, and then these churches would redistribute that money to people in need, and they knew who needed it because these people came into their church every week, so they got to know them on a personal level, and they got to know whether they were just trying to exploit the system and get free money, or if they truly were someone who was trying to be part of the local community, let's say, but they just fell on hard times. Their home burned down, whatever. Most of this stuff has moved into the insurance sector and the welfare programs of the government because we have, as a nation, completely walked away from God. And the church was also a competing power structure. I think it was a communist element, communal element of this country that held a lot of power and sway over people that competed with the capitalist government, which wanted to stimulate the economy and make sure that businesses were operating within regulatory framework. And now we've abandoned the belief in God. We've abandoned true belief. True belief is fervent belief in something that you hold to your core. And I do not believe that most people feel that way about science. I do not believe that most people today feel that science is going to save them or make them be able to live forever with no health problems and fly in cars or have free energy or do any of these things. In fact, I think science because it's controlled by money, and money is not really got any morality attached to it. Money doesn't care. Money is just an object. Money sees no profit from you being a good person. So if all you believe is in money and science, then I think that it is no surprise that you don't really care about the future. Because regardless of if you believe that there is a God and you will live on in some form, there will be people on earth that continue to live on. So if you choose to shit this place up while you're here, and you think that you're just going to go into darkness and disappear, and you cease to exist, you can do whatever you want. Well, you're forgetting the fact that your children have to live in the world that you create. So there is value in believing in the future, in the idea that you could exist forever. And it changes your behavior, it seems like, when we as a culture believed in God. I think that we were much more upright and forthcoming and more likely to do the right things. And yet we've walked away from it. And now you are just supposed to believe in man. The powerful leaders, the scientists that are funded by money, ultimately, studies are funded by money. Scientists have to get grants to do research. It is all tied to money. And science is clearly at this point not capable of understanding the body in a medical sense. We are getting better, but we are not masters of the human physiology. Cancer still exists and we don't know how to treat it. Autism, diabetes, at all-time highs in America. Science is doing really, really great in the medical sector. And then in physics, I mean, we clearly understand the universe. We can travel to other galaxies, right? Yes, we can. Oh, no, we can't. Interesting. Okay, so that also, while it is valid science and the things that we know are things that we know, there is a vast amount that we do not know. And scientists want you to disregard that fact so that you will believe in science and you won't question it. At the core of science is supposed to be questioning. You're supposed to come up with a thesis. You're supposed to do experiments to prove your thesis. And then you are supposed to have your peers also try to replicate your results. Actually, hypothesis and then thesis. Thesis is when you get to the post-experiment stage. My bad. Whereas with God, you simply have to believe that there is a higher power and a purpose to life, because science doesn't give us a purpose. Science, I mean, if you take it from a scientific standpoint, what is the meaning of life? Life begets more life. The purpose of life is to procreate and continue the existence of the human species. Whereas when you go to the religious side, the purpose of life is you are here, you are a higher being, and you are put in a place where there are limited resources, you have biological needs and desires, and you have to make choices as to how you behave in that framework. If you exist in the higher plane where you don't have to feed your body, you don't need to procreate, there aren't a limited amount of resources that you have to compete for, then why would you do any harm to others? Why would you take something from another person because you need it? You wouldn't. So the only way to figure out what you will do when placed in an environment where there are choices for you to make, and you can lean into being good and trying to be reasonable and fair with other people, or if you are trying to be bad and lean into your innermost desires and take whatever you can for yourself. Take too much. I don't see why that could possibly be a bad thing. If you believe in God and you live your life in an upright and righteous manner, the worst outcome is that you're wrong and you wind up leading a good life a fair life, treating others with respect and dignity while you're here, and then the atheists turn out to be right, and you just disappear, never to exist again. This is your only shot at it, and there's just nothing after this. There was no intention here. This was just an accident. Just the mysterious happenings of the universe. So if you're wrong, there's no consequence for believing in God. Supposedly, though, if you believe in science and you do bad things on the earth, and then it turns out that the people that believed in God and a higher power and a creator were right, then you might be moving to a tropical environment where everything is on fire. So there's just very little downside to doing the right thing and having a personal belief in God. I'm not here to shill for religion. I'm not telling you to go to church. I just think from a logical, scientific standpoint, the risk versus reward of living your life in a manner in which is, if you had to replay that movie back, you might have some regrets about how you treated other people. You might have some regrets about the things that you did while you were on this planet, while you were alive, while you're watching the movie of your life before you go into Never Never Land or wherever you go after this. I think the downside of disregarding the idea that there is a higher power and there is a higher purpose and there are consequences for choosing good and bad or good and evil, I think that we all benefit from that scientifically. So even evaluating the choice to believe in God from a scientific standpoint, and I would love to hear your hypothesis on how this is wrong. But there is nothing bad about believing in goodness and God. Now you can criticize religion all you want, but the most corrupt of all, no surprise, is the oldest and most powerful, the Catholic Church. Boy, they did some bad things, didn't they? So we should just stop believing in God because children get hit by buses and people get cancer and you get stolen from. You have loved ones that are killed for no reason. There's war in the world. There's famine. The water's polluted. There's disease. There's evil people that do you harm, right? So you just lose all faith and belief in God. And we do that at a mass scale. And shockingly, everybody starts to become self-indulgent and only thinks of themselves. And the outcome, well, you can pretty clearly see that that is not seeming to play out very well. Because there's so much division in this country. We used to be the most productive nation on earth. Not just because we came out of World War II as the only, industry that hadn't been touched by bombs. So we were able to help rebuild the world, and our economy benefited, and the people benefited from the economy inside this nation for many years. I mean, Homer Simpson worked at a nuclear plant, single income, had 3 children, a 2-car garage, and a nice house on one income. Oh yeah, that's just, whatever. Stupid, right? It's not reality, it's a cartoon. Well, back when it started, that was the reality of what you could have in America. And as we have lost our commonality, I mean, if you go to class and everybody's reading a different textbook, how do you follow along? So you can say the Bible is nonsense, but if you just take the Bible as a book and you say, okay, this is just a book, if you don't believe in God, that's fine, but if you just read the Bible tells you to do the right thing. Don't bang your neighbor's wife. Don't steal from people. Don't murder people. Don't do bad things. This is the framework of being a good person. As a child, you get exposed to it. As children, we all got exposed to it in the before time when the Bible was not stupid. So you would then grow up to be an adult with the same framework of understanding what good and bad, what right and wrong is. And even if you didn't wholeheartedly agree with it, you could at least understand it and participate in society with that common understanding. And now that that's dissolved, everybody's understanding of what good and bad is become individualized, and that's why we show up and we have to debate what good and bad is with our peers because everyone has a different idea of it. We all have our personal truth and our personal idea of what right and wrong is. So instead of going and being productive members of society, we first have to debate our way into justifying our idea of right and wrong, our idea of good and bad, which creates division, which then reduces production, reduces scientific progress, reduces all this stuff, reduces the amount of truth, because I'm pushing my ideas and I'm giving my evidence to try to support my ideas, and we are arguing about nonsense rather than building skyscrapers and fixing the roads and upgrading our power infrastructure so we can have these stupid electric vehicles that are going to result in huge amounts of lithium as toxic waste that has to be processed so it doesn't pollute the ground and the planet and all this stuff. This is why we went away from nuclear. Great concept. Produces toxic waste. By the way, there's helium-3 on the moon. That could be used in a nuclear reaction and it produces no toxic waste. But no, let's keep burning coal. Let's keep burning oil. The science says we need to do this for progress. We need a new iPhone every year. Why is that? That's just for profit. That's not to make the world a better place. I mean, you can clearly see that capitalism is not about making the world a better place. It is about profit. Hello? It's about money. And instead of being good, being something you're rewarded for in society, now you're just rewarded for how much you're able to accumulate in resources. And if you are accumulating resources to the detriment of the rest of the people on Earth, I would say that's empirically bad from a scientific standpoint. And yet you're supposed to believe the science. And God is stupid, right? This makes a lot of sense to me. It really does. And I think it's wonderful. Nietzsche said, "We have killed God, and the blood will forever be on our hands." Eventually, this is going to degrade into a point where we might have a little bit of a disagreement. And because we don't want to talk about it, because we don't want to come to the table and compromise, right? Just like in a relationship, what happens if you can't speak anymore? Well, the anger boils up to the point where physical violence can occur. And we have relationships inside a nation. And if as a nation we can't talk to each other, and the anger keeps rising and rising and rising because we won't talk and listen to each other, we just want our side to be heard, and we want to convince the other side to believe in what we believe in, which the other side rejects, then what is the eventual outcome of that? Well, I would say revolution or possibly civil war. Neither of which is going to be fun for the people involved. You know, as great as the idea that at one point we had a revolution and broke free from the British government so that we could have our own nation and do our own thing and found our country based on commonly shared beliefs, which have slowly dissolved into individual beliefs, and our nation is a reflection of that. I think that it's very hard to argue that we are not headed for another event like a 1776 or a American Civil War. And who benefits from that? Not us. Not us. The people that make money on war would benefit from a world war, and I think that other countries would benefit from an America divided to the point where we were fighting amongst ourselves. So none of this scientifically is good for America. None of this scientifically is headed for a good outcome if you just look at the data. Or if you believe in God and you believe in goodness and you believe in evil, then from a religious standpoint or from a standpoint of belief, none of our behaviors and none of our division is good from a belief standpoint either. And yet we continue because no one wants to do the right thing. Everybody wants to do what's best for themselves and not good for the group. The last thing I'm going to say is I do understand why there is a communist element inside our country that is rising because of the evil of capitalism. But we have seen time and time again how bad communism actually works out for the people. I mean, um, Mao in China, the communist dictator, he killed 100 million of his people during his reign. Stalin was around 50 million. And then you had the horrible events in Germany of World War II, which uh, I mean, it's 6 million, I guess. But communism seems to result in a lot of death because you give everything to the government, right? Everybody pays everything into the government and they redistribute. And what seems to happen is when they get everything, they swipe a large portion of it off the table for themselves and then redistribute a paltry fraction back to the people, resulting in mass poverty. So this is also not the solution. We need to come back together as Americans and respect each other, treat each other with dignity, try to be good to each other, regardless of the reason. It is the right thing to do, and we used to all know this to be truth from a scientific standpoint and from a belief standpoint. That's all I got. Sorry if I rambled, you know. Duh. Anyway, see you in the next one.